I've always believed that people only take night jobs when they don't have much of a choice. That was the case for me back in the fall of 2016, when I found myself sitting in the parking lot of a Wendy's on Lakeview Drive, staring at the glowing red sign through the fog of my own breath. The town of Mill Haven was the kind of place that looked wholesome at a distance. Tree-lined streets, a small main square, the high school football stadium lit up on Friday nights. But if you lived there long enough, you started to notice the cracks. Empty factories on the edge of town, houses with foreclosure notices nailed to the doors, people working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. I was 22, broke, and desperate. My old job at the shipping warehouse had gone under 3 months earlier, and in that time I'd blown through what little savings I had. My landlord had already slipped a warning under my door. My car insurance company had called twice, threatening to cancel my coverage. I'd filled out applications at every gas station, diner, and grocery store in a 20-mile radius, and I was running out of options. When Wendy's called, I didn't hesitate. A job was a job. I told myself it would only be temporary, just long enough to catch up on rent, maybe stash a few paychecks away. But as I sat in that car on the night of November 3rd, waiting for my first shift to start, I felt this gnawing weight in my chest. The place was too quiet. The parking lot lights flickered. The only movement was a plastic bag drifting across the pavement like a ghost. I walked to the back door where new hires were told to enter. It opened before I could knock, and I found myself face to face with Greg Henson, the night manager. Stocky build, graying hair, permanent frown carved into his face. He didn't shake my hand or even smile. He just squinted at me like I was already a problem he didn't want to deal with. "You're Alex, right?" he asked. "Yeah, first night," I said. "Good. Come on." The fluorescent lights inside buzzed loud enough to make my head ache. The whole place smelled faintly of grease that had been burned one too many times. The tile floors looked clean, but had a slippery film on them, like no matter how much they mopped, the oil always won. Greg didn't waste time on small talk. Instead, he led me through the kitchen and started rattling off rules in a flat, mechanical voice. "Couple things you need to know about working nights here," he said. "Number 1, you don't argue with anyone who comes in. If a customer's angry, let them be angry. If they make threats, let them talk. There's a pistol taped under the front register if things go too far, but don't touch it unless you absolutely have to." I laughed, thinking he was joking. "A pistol? Are you serious?" He didn't smile. "Dead serious. Number 2, after midnight, if you hear anything in the kitchen that doesn't make sense, dragging, banging, voices, you ignore it. You don't investigate, you don't ask questions, you just keep working." I stood there frozen. Was this some kind of hazing? A sick initiation for new hires? But the way he looked at me, his eyes hard and unblinking, I realized he wasn't kidding. "Are you trying to scare me off?" I asked. "If you scare that easy," he said, turning away, "you shouldn't be here." The first few hours went fine, or at least as fine as working in fast food could be. I learned how to run the fryer, clean the counters, and work the register. A few late-night customers came through the drive-thru, mostly truckers and a couple of teenagers who smelled like weed, but nothing out of the ordinary. For a while, I even convinced myself that maybe Greg's warnings were just a twisted way of toughening me up. But around midnight, I started hearing things. At first it was faint, like the scrape of metal on tile. Then came a dragging noise, long and slow, followed by the dull thud of something heavy hitting the floor. I looked toward the back of the kitchen, heart racing, but nothing was there. Just the empty prep station and the freezer door closed tight. I turned to Greg. He was leaning against the fry station, arms crossed, watching me. "Ignore it," he said flatly. "You don't hear that?" I asked. "I hear it," he replied. "And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter." I went back to wiping down trays, but my hands shook so bad that I kept dropping them. Every few minutes, the noises started up again, dragging, clattering, then silence. It was enough to make my skin crawl. Then, at 1 o'clock, the headset crackled to life. "Do you keep the doors locked after midnight?" a voice asked. It was low, monotone, almost mechanical. Not the kind of voice you'd expect to hear ordering a burger at 1 a.m. I froze, clutching the headset. This is Wendy's. Did you want to order something? You shouldn't be here right now, the voice said. Then silence. I yanked the headset off and turned to Greg. Did you hear that? Some guy just... Greg cut me off. Doesn't matter. Get back to work. I couldn't believe how calm he was, like this was all part of some routine. I tried to brush it off, but the unease only grew heavier. My stomach churned with every passing minute. The restaurant felt less like a workplace and more like a trap. By 2:15, the voice came back. You're still inside. Why? I spun around toward the drive-thru window, expecting headlights. But the lane was empty. Nothing but asphalt glowing under the orange streetlights. I was trembling now. There's nobody out there, I whispered. Greg's eyes didn't move from the counter. Don't look, he muttered. And then came the bang, loud enough to rattle the pans on the wall. Pots clattered to the floor. I jumped back, nearly tripping over the mop bucket. Greg didn't even flinch. When Greg went into the office to check the nightly sales report, curiosity got the better of me. I couldn't just sit there and pretend nothing was happening. I crept to the back of the kitchen, every step echoing louder in my ears than it should have. The walk-in freezer door was standing wide open. Cold air poured out, burning my skin even through my jacket. I stepped closer, peering into the darkness. The shelves were empty. No bags of fries, no tubs of chili, no boxes of patties, just bare metal. And on the back wall, smeared in something dark and greasy, were the words, "You can't leave." I staggered back, heart pounding in my chest. My breath fogged in front of me, too fast, too shallow. I slammed the door shut and nearly slipped as I rushed back toward the front. When Greg came out of the office, I grabbed his arm. "The freezer. Someone's been in there. There's writing on the wall." He looked at me like I'd just told him the weather. "Doesn't matter." "What do you mean it doesn't matter?" I shouted. "Someone broke in. They're screwing with us." His voice dropped to a growl. "You think this is your first night seeing it? Get used to it. This is how it goes here." I didn't know what scared me more, whatever was happening in that freezer, or the fact that Greg treated it like it was normal. At 2:45, a rusted sedan rolled into the drive-thru. Relief flooded me. A real customer. A real person. I threw on the headset and opened the window. But the man behind the wheel wasn't just any customer. He was the voice. His face was pale, thin, with hollow cheeks and eyes that seemed too dark, too empty. He didn't blink, didn't smile. He just leaned closer to the glass and whispered. "He told you about the gun, didn't he?" Every hair on my body stood up. I slammed the window shut and stumbled back. Greg grabbed my shoulder. "Office, now." From the office window, I watched Greg speak quietly to the man in the sedan. I couldn't hear the words, but after a long minute, the car finally rolled away. Greg came back in, his face unreadable. "Who was that?" I asked. "Doesn't matter," he said again. That phrase. Always that phrase. By 3:30, I couldn't take it anymore. The noises, the writing, the man at the window, it was too much. "I quit," I told him. "I don't care about the paycheck. I'm done." Greg stepped in front of the door. "You walk out now, you'll regret it." I pushed past him, nearly tearing the handle off the back door as I forced it open. The freezing air slapped me in the face, but it felt better than the stifling dread inside. I sprinted across the parking lot toward my car, but before I unlocked the door, something made me turn back. In the dining room window, the pale man was standing inside, watching me. Every door was locked. I knew it. And yet, he was there. I didn't look back again. I drove home, shaking so badly I could barely keep the car on the road. I ignored every call from Greg after that night. A week later, I quit officially by phone. A month later, I saw the news article. Millhaven Wendy's shut down for health violations. Employees report disturbing conditions. The article was vague, only mentioning expired food, unsafe freezers, and serious employee concerns. But I knew what it really meant. Whatever haunted that place wasn't something you could write in a report. Even now, years later, I can't eat Wendy's without my stomach turning. And when I pass an abandoned restaurant late at night, sometimes I see a pale figure in the window just standing there, watching. I don't tell people this story often because most wouldn't believe it. But I tell it to you now with one lesson I learned too late. Sometimes the jobs we take out of desperation come with a cost we can't afford. No paycheck is worth your sanity, your safety, or your life. And when a place feels wrong from the moment you walk in, listen to that feeling. Get out while you still can. There are some nights you remember for the rest of your life, not because anything good happened, but because something inside you changed. For me, it all started on October 14th, 2019, a Monday that should have been like any other. The air was crisp, the kind of early fall chill that makes your breath fog in the streetlights. I pulled my hoodie tight as I walked down Spring Garden Street in Greensboro, North Carolina, heading toward the Wendy's where I worked the late shift. By then, I'd been at that Wendy's for almost 3 years. I never expected to be there that long. It was supposed to be a temporary gig while I got through college. But life doesn't care much for your plans. My roommate bailed on me out of nowhere, leaving me to cover the full rent on our small apartment. I took on more hours, which meant more night shifts, and before I knew it, I was just scraping by. My grades slipped, my social life shrank, and Wendy's became the only constant in my life. I tried to look at the bright side. The job gave me routine, fryers buzzing, the hum of the soda machine, the faint chatter of late-night customers. It was familiar, almost comforting. The red and yellow glow of the Wendy's sign outside felt like a lighthouse when I trudged up tired and broke. But that comfort turned on me in ways I never expected. That Monday night was slow. Business usually died down after 11, with only a few stragglers coming through the drive-thru. I was wiping down the counters when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Normally, I wouldn't check. I knew management didn't like phones out, but it buzzed again and again until I caved. It was a text from an unknown number. You shouldn't keep your keys on the left side of your belt. Easy for anyone to grab. I stopped breathing for a second. I looked down. Sure enough, my Wendy's issued keys were clipped right to my belt loop on the left side. I chuckled nervously to myself, thinking it had to be one of my coworkers messing with me. Haha, very funny, I muttered, glancing toward Denise, who was stacking trays. But she wasn't paying me any attention, and I knew for a fact she didn't have my number. I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply came. I tried to shake it off, probably some random wrong number. Still, my hands were shaky as I tossed the rag into the bucket and kept working. But I couldn't stop checking over my shoulder. That was the first night I felt it. The sense that someone out there, unseen, was paying closer attention to me than I'd ever wanted. The next night it happened again. I was on drive-thru duty when my phone buzzed in my pocket. This time the text read, "You always park near the dumpster. Bad idea. Too dark back there." I froze, headset halfway to my ear. I hadn't told anyone where I parked. The dumpster sat in the back corner of the lot, a spot I liked because it was closest to the employee entrance. I spun around, peering through the drive-thru window toward the lot, but all I saw were empty spaces and the glow of the neon sign flickering. I typed back quickly, "Who the hell is this?" Again, no reply. The rest of the shift, the texts came in bursts. That red hoodie makes you easy to spot. Stop scratching your arm, it's a nervous habit. My chest tightened with each one. Whoever this was, they weren't guessing. They were watching me. "Hey, you good?" Denise asked at one point, noticing how pale I looked. "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." But I wasn't just tired. I was terrified. By Friday, things had escalated. The texts weren't just observations anymore. They were warnings. "You look tired tonight. Don't let the fryer oil splash on your face. Lock the freezer door when you go in, not everyone comes out." I nearly dropped my phone when I read that one. The freezer was the one place in the restaurant I already hated going, Silent, cold, the heavy door always threatening to shut behind you. Reading that text, I swore I'd never go in there alone again. That week I stopped parking near the dumpster. I shoved my keys in my pocket instead of my belt loop. I even started wearing a different jacket, just to prove to myself that I could change the variables. But no matter what I did, the messages kept finding me. And with every one, my skin crawled worse. By the end of October, I was unraveling. The texts wouldn't stop, and the more I tried to ignore them, the more personal they became. On Halloween night, while most of the town was out at parties or taking kids trick-or-treating, I was scrubbing the fryer baskets when my phone buzzed again. Don't forget the safe code is 3847. Don't mess it up. I dropped the basket into the sink with a clatter. My pulse spiked so hard I could hear it in my ears. That number was the real safe code. Only management and shift leads knew it. I wasn't supposed to know it myself. I had overheard it once when the manager was opening the safe. I backed into the wall, staring at the phone like it was about to explode. This wasn't just some creep in the parking lot. This was someone who had been inside Wendy's. Someone who knew things no random stranger should know. That night, after close, I didn't go straight to my car. I stayed in the dining room with the lights half off, pacing. Every sound made me jump. The hum of the fridge, the squeak of the mop bucket wheels. When I finally worked up the courage to step outside, I scanned the lot like a hunted animal. Empty. But my gut told me I wasn't alone. I jogged to my car, keys clutched tight in my fist, heart hammering. The shadows felt thicker than usual. When I got home, I shoved a chair under the doorknob and slept with the TV on. But I didn't sleep much. By mid-November, I was breaking down. My manager noticed, though not for the right reasons. "You've been spacing out, Evan. Customers are complaining. Get it together or I'm cutting your hours." If only he knew. If only I could explain. But who would believe me? That I was being stalked through text messages? That someone knew what pocket I kept my keys in and what hoodie I wore to work? They'd think I was paranoid. On November 22nd, the worst happened. It was a slow night, cold enough outside that frost rimmed the windows. I was mopping near the front counter when my phone buzzed. "Smile. You're on camera." I froze. My eyes darted to the big windows facing Spring Garden Street. And there he was. A figure stood across the street under the yellow glow of a street lamp. Hood pulled up, hands shoved in pockets, just standing there, watching me. The mop slipped from my hand, water splattering the tile. For nearly a full minute I stood there locked in place, staring back at him. He didn't wave, didn't move, just stood perfectly still. When I finally snapped out of it, I bolted into the kitchen, chest heaving. By the time I found the nerve to peek out again, the figure was gone. But I knew he had been there. I quit 2 weeks later. I couldn't take it anymore. My nerves were shot, my hands shook constantly, and I was afraid to even look out my own windows at night. I told my manager I needed to focus on school, but the truth was, I needed to survive. The night after I quit, I sat in my car outside a gas station trying to breathe when my phone buzzed one last time. "Doesn't matter where you go, I still see you." I dropped the phone on the passenger seat and just sat there, trembling. I never went to the police. What would I tell them? That someone sent me creepy texts and stood across the street one night? No evidence, no proof. Just me, a Wendy's uniform, and a wrecked state of mind. It's been years since then, but the damage never left. I moved to a new city, changed my number, deleted my social media. Still, I check over my shoulder every time I leave work, and I keep my curtains drawn tight. Because sometimes, even now, a text will appear from a number I don't recognize. And it always says the same thing. I still see you. Sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't supernatural. They're people who know just enough about you to make your life unbearable. Pay attention to what you share, where you are vulnerable, and who might be watching. Safety isn't just about locking doors. It's about being aware that trust can be exploited in the smallest ways. I've worked plenty of jobs since high school, stocking grocery store shelves, delivering pizzas, even doing some landscaping during the summer. But nothing burned itself into my memory like those few months at the Wendy's on Blue Mound Road in Brookfield, Wisconsin. It wasn't a particularly special location, just another fast food spot with a faded red sign that flickered against the night sky. But I swear to you, what I lived through there still makes my stomach turn whenever I drive past a Wendy's. I started in early 2016, after transferring from another location across town. My dad had just lost his job at the factory, and money got tight real fast. I'd been taking whatever shifts I could get, hoping to help out with bills and maybe scrape together enough for community college tuition. The Brookfield store wasn't glamorous. Stained ceiling tiles, the faint sour mix of bleach and fryer grease in the air. But they promised more hours. At 22, that was good enough for me. The night crew was small. Rachel was the shift lead, maybe 10 years older than me. She had that no-nonsense vibe, the kind of woman who'd been running drive-thrus long before I learned how to work a cash register. Then there was Luis, the cook. Quiet guy. He kept to the kitchen like it was his territory, headphones dangling from one ear while he flipped patties and salted fries. That left me at the counter, trying to smile at customers who usually looked too tired or too irritated to smile back. It was February, the kind of Wisconsin winter where the snow turns gray and slushy, sticking to your shoes no matter how many times you scrape them on the mat. Nights dragged on when it rained like that. Fewer customers, more time staring at the clock. That's when she came in. The bell above the door jingled, and I looked up. She must have been in her late 30s, maybe 40. Her hair was plastered to her face from the rain, mascara streaked like she'd been crying. Her coat was torn at the sleeve, and her hands trembled as she held onto the counter for balance. She looked wrecked. Welcome to Wendy's, I said, fumbling through the usual script. What can I get for you tonight? She didn't answer right away. Her eyes darted between the glowing menu boards like she had no idea where she was. Finally, she whispered, "Just a small chili." Her voice cracked. She dug through her pocket and slid a few crumpled bills across the counter. I rang it up, pretending like everything was normal, but my chest tightened just looking at her. Something about her seemed wrong. Rachel slid up beside me, lowering her voice so only I could hear. "Don't get involved, Alex. Some people, you just take the order and move on." But I couldn't. I watched her shuffle over to the corner booth by the window, cradling the cup of chili I set down for her. She didn't eat it. She just stared into it, her hands trembling, like lifting the spoon was too much. That image, that broken woman under the neon glow of a cheap Wendy's sign on a rainy night, it never left me. For the first 10 minutes, I tried to mind my own business. I wiped counters that didn't need wiping, stacked trays, and helped Rachel with a few closing tasks. But I kept glancing at her, and each time I did, she looked worse. Her shoulders sagged further, her breathing uneven, her eyes locked on that chili as if it held some answer she couldn't face. Finally, I grabbed a few napkins and walked over. "Hey," I said softly, careful not to startle her. "You okay? Need anything else?" Her head lifted slowly. Her eyes were bloodshot, her cheeks streaked with mascara. She looked at me like she was trying to decide whether or not I was real. "It's too late now," she whispered. I frowned. "Too late for what?" She shook her head, eyes dropping back to the chili. "You can't help me. Nobody can." Before I could press further, Rachel's voice snapped from behind the counter. "Alex, dishes aren't going to wash themselves." I hesitated. The woman's lips quivered like she wanted to say more, but Rachel was glaring at me, and I didn't want to push my luck on only my second week. I mumbled something about napkins and stepped back, but as I turned away, I swear I heard her mutter again, "It's too late now." The sound of it followed me through the rest of the night. Every time the rain hit the glass windows, it felt heavier, colder. When my shift ended and I walked out to my car, I saw her again, this time sitting inside a beat-up sedan parked near the edge of the lot. Her headlights weren't on. She just sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at nothing. I wanted to knock on her window, ask if she needed a ride or help or anything, but I didn't. I told myself it wasn't my business. I started my car and drove home. The image of her pale face glowing faintly in the darkness of her car window burned into my brain. The next day, I came into work tired. I hadn't slept well, tossing and turning with that woman's whisper stuck in my ears. Rachel was waiting for me near the fryer, her expression serious. "Did you hear?" she asked. "Hear what?" "That woman from last night, the one who ordered chili." My stomach dropped. "What about her?" "She's dead," Rachel said flatly. "Car accident. They found her vehicle wrapped around a tree on North Avenue. Happened not long after she left here." I just stood there gripping the edge of the counter. "You're kidding, right?" Rachel shook her head. "Police think she fell asleep at the wheel." I felt like the room tilted under me. I saw her again in my mind, soaked from the rain, trembling, whispering it was too late. I wanted to tell Rachel what she had said, but I couldn't. Rachel had made it clear the night before, don't get involved, and if I told her now, she'd probably think I was making things up to dramatize it. But it wasn't dramatization. It was real. And it followed me. The corner booth she'd sat in became different. I'd catch myself glancing at it during my shifts. Sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw her there, dripping wet, cradling that chili cup. Once, when I walked past, I swear the cushion looked darker, like it had soaked up rainwater even though no one had been sitting there all day. I tried to ignore it. I buried myself in tasks, scrubbed dishes harder than necessary, mopped the floor twice over. But every night, that booth pulled my eyes back. Every night, I remembered her voice. It's too late now. By March, the whispers had started. Not every night, just on the ones where the rain hit the roof hard enough to drown out the hum of the fryers. I'd be stacking cups or wiping trays and I'd hear it. Her voice, soft, cracked, right behind my ear. It's too late now. The first time I dropped a stack of plastic lids and nearly fell over. Rachel asked what my problem was and I lied, saying I slipped. One stormy night, I was closing with Luis. Rachel had already left and the store was dead quiet except for the rain. I was wiping down the front dining area, trying not to look at the booth, when the bell above the door jingled. My head snapped up. Nobody was there. But when I turned to the corner booth, the seat was wet, soaked, a puddle spreading across the vinyl as if rain had dripped straight from her clothes. I backed away, my throat tight. Louise shouted from the kitchen, asking if everything was all right, but I couldn't answer. That's when I felt it, the whisper right at my ear, so close I swore I felt breath. It's too late now. I bolted, left my rag on the counter, apron on the floor, and ran out into the rain without even clocking out. I never went back after that night. I called the next morning and told Rachel I was done. She didn't argue. She just muttered something about kids these days not lasting long in tough jobs. I found work at a grocery store a few weeks later. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt safer. No booths, no rainy night whispers. Still, it followed me. Every time it rained, I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Whenever someone mentioned chili, my stomach twisted. Some nights, when the storm rattles my apartment windows, I hear it again. That voice. Soft. Broken. Right behind me. It's too late now. I don't know what she meant. Maybe it was about her life. Maybe it was a warning. Maybe it was both. But the lesson I've carried with me since then is this. When someone looks like they're at the end of their rope, when they whisper something that sounds like a goodbye, you don't brush it off. You don't let fear of looking foolish stop you. Because sometimes reaching out isn't just kindness. Sometimes it's the difference between life and death. And if you ignore it, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if it really was too late or if you could have made a difference. I used to tell myself that the past is a place you leave behind, like an old apartment you abandon when the rent gets too high. But the truth is, it follows you. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the way strangers look at you, in the way a certain smell or sound can split you open. For me, that past carried a name, Haley, my daughter. I had her when I was barely more than a kid myself, 21 and in over my head. Her father wasn't around much, and when he was either drunk or violent. By the time Haley was 2, I had already fallen into a spiral I couldn't crawl out of. Pills at first, then harder things. Courtrooms, custody hearings, social workers, all of them watching me fail in slow motion. Eventually, the state made the call I couldn't. They gave my baby to my parents, and I disappeared. The years after that are blurry, like a bad dream you only half remember when you wake up. Nights spent on couches that weren't mine, waking up in apartments where I didn't belong, too many rehab intake forms with my shaky handwriting scrawled across them. For 20 years, I lived like a ghost. But ghosts can come back. I got clean in the winter of 2020. Cold turkey, rehab, a halfway house. Somehow I survived it. For the first time in decades, I had my own apartment, a job at a thrift store, and a calendar that didn't feel like a countdown to disaster. I thought maybe, just maybe, I had outrun the worst of it. Then, out of nowhere, a message appeared on Facebook. The name was one I hadn't spoken out loud in years, Haley Porter. The message was short, almost too short. If you ever want to see me again, I work at the Wendy's on Monroe Street. Come by, I'll be there. I must have read it 100 times. My first instinct was disbelief. Maybe it was a cruel joke, some scam, or just a coincidence. But the profile was real, the photos unmistakable. She was grown now, dark hair, a sharp chin that reminded me of her father. But her eyes, those were mine. For weeks, I couldn't bring myself to reply. Every time I sat down at the computer, my hands shook too much to type. What could I say after all those years? Sorry? I missed you? None of it seemed enough. Finally, on the night of June 11th, 2021, I couldn't take the silence anymore. I got in my car and drove. It was one of those humid Midwest nights where the air feels thick enough to chew. Toledo was buzzing faintly with summer, but Monroe Street was nearly empty by the time I parked across from the Wendy's. I sat there for what felt like hours, my hands glued to the steering wheel, my chest tight. Through the windows, I could see the bright lights, the linoleum floors, the familiar red and yellow decor. People went in and out, kids with Frosties, a couple of guys grabbing burgers on their way home from work. And then, behind the counter, I saw her. She wore the red Wendy's polo, a visor tucked over her hair. She was counting bills from a register drawer, her head tilted slightly down. The name tag on her chest said, Haley. For the first time in 2 decades, I saw my daughter. And in that moment, I forgot how to breathe. Walking through those glass doors felt like walking into another lifetime. The smell hit me first. Grease, fryer oil, burnt fries that had sat too long under a heat lamp. The lights buzzed faintly above, and the cold blast of air conditioning prickled my skin after the heavy warmth of the night outside. She looked up before I even reached the counter. Her face broke into a smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Mom," she said. The word cracked something inside me. My throat tightened. My knees felt weak. And before I could stop myself, I whispered, "Haley." For a second, I wanted to collapse right there. I wanted to fall to my knees and hold her, to apologize for everything, to explain every broken choice I'd made. But my body wouldn't move. I can't believe you're here," I stammered, stepping closer. "I thought you'd never want to see me again." She set the drawer down, her fingers brushing over the money like it didn't matter. Her eyes never left mine. "I've been waiting for you," she said calmly. The words sent a strange shiver down my spine. I tried to laugh, to break the tension. "Well, you found me. Or I guess you let me find you. Haley walked around the counter and gestured toward the dining area. Come sit. We can talk. We chose a booth in the corner, far from the lingering customers. A shift lead, a girl named Rachel, glanced at us with suspicion, but said nothing when Haley waved her off. For the first time in 2 decades, we sat across from each other. I spilled everything. My failed attempts at rehab, the toxic relationships, the jobs that never lasted. I told her about getting clean, about the thrift shop, about how I thought of her every single day. Tears burned my eyes and my hands shook so badly I had to grip my purse just to keep still. Haley just listened. Her face was blank, her eyes locked on mine with an intensity that made me squirm. It was like she was studying me, not feeling anything, not reacting, just watching. Finally, she spoke. Do you know how many birthdays you missed? The words cut deep. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. I know, I whispered, and I hate myself for it. I can't change the past, Haley, but I want to make it right. I want a chance to know you again. Her lips twitched, almost into a smile. You don't get it. You can't leave me again. Not this time. My heart skipped. I reached for her hand across the table, but she jerked back like my touch burned. Her smile widened, twisted. You left me once, she said softly. You won't leave again. The air in the room felt suddenly heavy, like the hum of the fluorescent lights had grown louder, pressing into my ears. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. At first I told myself I was imagining it. The years apart had built tension, guilt, paranoia. Of course she was angry. Of course she was hurt. That's what this was, just pain, spilling out in sharp words. But then her tone shifted. She leaned closer, her eyes wide, unblinking. I've been waiting for you, every night, and now you're here. You're not going anywhere. The way she said it, it wasn't just longing, it was possession. I tried to keep my voice calm. Haley, I came here because I love you. I want to build something new. But you can't force this. We'll take it slow, okay? Her smile stretched wider. You don't understand. You're mine now. You'll stay here with me. Forever. I froze. My pulse thundered in my ears. The restaurant was nearly empty now. Just the hum of the fryers, the faint clatter from the kitchen. Rachel, the shift lead, called out, Haley, we're closing up, but got no response. Haley's hand shot across the table, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. Her nails dug into my skin, her eyes boring into mine. Sit down, she ordered. Her voice was low but commanding, and something about it made me obey for a heartbeat before panic kicked in. I tugged, but she didn't let go. You don't know how many nights I thought about this, she whispered. About making you stay. About keeping you. I yanked harder, finally tearing my wrist free. My chest heaved. Haley, please, this isn't you. This isn't my daughter. The words slipped out before I could stop them. For the first time, a flicker of something flashed across her face. Not pain, anger. She stood, her shadow stretching long across the booth. You'll stay here with me, she said flatly. You'll work the counter, you'll clean the tables just like me. Forever. Her words rang in my ears as I realized something horrifying. The restaurant was empty. Rachel was gone. The cook was gone. The janitor was gone. Just me and Haley. And the doors? When I glanced toward the front, the exit sign glowed above locked glass doors. The neon open sign had been switched off. Somehow I was trapped. Panic roared through me, but I forced myself to breathe, to think. I couldn't just sit here and let her keep me. I bolted toward the bathrooms where a side exit usually led to the parking lot. My fingers wrapped around the handle, and I shoved with all my weight. The door didn't budge. A chain rattled on the other side. Don't bother, Haley's voice echoed behind me, calm, steady. I told you, we'll never be apart again. I spun around, my back pressed against the cold metal. She was walking toward me slowly, each step deliberate. The fluorescent lights flickered above her, buzzing louder, and for a moment, her shadow stretched impossibly long across the floor. I grabbed a metal chair from the dining area, my hands slick with sweat. My chest heaved as I dragged it toward the front doors. She stopped, tilting her head, watching me with that eerie smile. "You can't run from me, Mom. Not again." The words hit me like a knife, but adrenaline drowned out the guilt. I raised the chair and slammed it against the glass. The crack spidered out instantly. Again. The third strike shattered it, shards raining down around me. I didn't wait. I shoved through the jagged frame, cutting my arm on the glass, and stumbled into the humid night air. My blood ran cold as I turned back. Haley stood in the doorway, her figure framed by the glowing Wendy sign. She didn't chase me. She didn't scream. She just stood there, smiling. And in that smile I saw no warmth, no love, only something hollow, something dark. I never went back to that Wendy's. Not once. The next day I tried to explain to the police. They looked at me like I was unstable, maybe relapsing. They said no employee by the name of Haley Porter had been on schedule that night. In fact, they claimed she hadn't worked there at all. When I checked her Facebook profile again, it was gone. Deleted. As if it had never existed. I called my parents, desperate for answers, but they told me the same thing they had for years. Haley didn't want contact. They hadn't heard from her in months. To this day, I don't know if the girl I saw in that Wendy's was really my daughter, or something else wearing her face. But sometimes when I drive past that stretch of Monroe Street, the neon sign catches my eye, and through the windows, I swear I see her standing behind the counter, visor shadowing her face, waiting. And I know deep down that if I ever step inside again, I won't come back out. The past doesn't stay buried. Sometimes it waits for you. Some wounds can't be healed by revisiting the places where they began. Redemption doesn't always come from forcing the past to meet the present. It comes from learning when to let go, before it consumes you. I never thought a late-night burger run would change my life. If you've ever grown up in a town like Amarillo, you know the heat doesn't let up even after the sun goes down. The streets radiate warmth, the blacktop smells like tar, and the only real hangouts are fast food joints lined along Coulter Street. I was 17 that summer, August of 2018, and living for moments that felt bigger than our small town. I had just gotten my license that May. That plastic card in my wallet felt like freedom. No more asking my mom for rides, no more waiting for Tyler or Mitch to swing by. I could drive myself, music blasting, windows down, feeling like I owned the night. That Saturday, my friends and I had spent hours at Thompson Park, tossing a football until the sweat glued our shirts to our backs. By 9:30, we were starving. Tyler leaned back in my passenger seat, grinning. "Man, I'm telling you, Baconator, it'll change your life." I had never been a Wendy's guy. Pizza Hut, Whataburger, even Taco Villa, sure. But Wendy's was always last resort. Still, Tyler was relentless. 2 patties, all the bacon you can handle. Forget Whataburger, this is it. So, against my better judgment, I swung the car into the glowing Wendy's lot on Coulter Street. The line of cars wrapped around the drive-thru, so we decided to go inside. The air conditioning hit like a wall when we stepped through the doors, thick with the smell of grease and salt. Teenagers filled a booth by the soda machine. A young couple sat whispering by the window, and behind the counter a shift manager barked orders over the hum of fryers. I ordered the Baconator, my first ever. When the tray slid across the counter, the burger looked monstrous. Meat stacked, cheese spilling out the sides, grease pooling under the wrapper. My stomach growled. We grabbed a booth and I unwrapped it. Tyler and Mitch leaned in like I was unwrapping a Christmas present. The first bite wasn't bad. Salty, messy, overwhelming in the way only fast food can be. The second bite made me groan, grease dripping down my fingers. My friends laughed and cheered me on. Then came the third bite. I bit down and felt something that didn't belong. Not crispy like bacon, not tough like overcooked meat. Rubber. soft but firm. My teeth skidded off it. I gagged, dropping the burger onto the tray. Something pale stuck out from the cheese. I pushed back from the table, heart hammering. My hands shook as I pulled apart the bun. There, smeared in ketchup and grease, was a fingertip. Human. Pale, grayish, nail still attached. The world tilted. My stomach lurched. Jesus Christ, I gagged, stumbling from the booth. Dude, what the hell is that? Tyler's voice cracked. Mitch's face drained white. I could barely get words out. It's a finger. Every conversation in the restaurant stopped. A woman screamed. The couple near the window scrambled up, knocking over their drinks. Someone yelled, "Call the cops!" I stood there frozen, my hands covered in ketchup and something else. And in that instant, I knew my life wouldn't be the same. The dining area erupted like a bomb went off. Customers shouting, phones out recording, chairs scraping against the tile, kids crying, adults swearing. All I could do was stare at that burger, my burger, with a severed finger tucked neatly inside. The shift manager rushed over, sneakers squeaking. "What's going on?" I stammered, voice shaking. There's a finger in my food." She snatched the tray from the table and went pale. "Oh my God." Then she bolted for the kitchen, shouting something I couldn't make out. "Call the police," a man near the door yelled. Somebody else screamed at the staff for refunds. The smell of grease and fries clung to the air, suddenly sickening, heavy, suffocating. I staggered into the bathroom and barely made it to the sink before vomiting. The sound of it echoed against the tiles, my throat raw, eyes burning. I splashed cold water on my face, gripping the counter. My reflection looked like a ghost, pale, sweaty, wild-eyed. Tyler cracked the door open. "Bro, you good?" "No," I whispered, voice hollow. "I bit into a finger, Ty. A goddamn human finger." He didn't have a joke. He just nodded, pale as I was. By the time I came out, flashing red and blue lights washed over the Wendy's windows. Police cars lined the curb, an ambulance parked nearby. Officers taped off the counter area, herding customers outside. I gave my statement with trembling hands, describing everything, the order, the bite, the discovery. An EMT wrapped a blanket around my shoulders like I was freezing, though the air still felt hot and sticky. The cops questioned the kitchen staff one by one. None of them had injuries. None could explain where the finger came from. The shift manager looked ready to faint. I sat on the curb, staring at the grease stains on my hands, smelling phantom ketchup and flesh. Tyler sat beside me in silence. Mitch paced, running his hands through his hair. An officer crouched down in front of me. "Son, we're gonna need you to hang tight. Health inspectors are on the way." "Whose finger was it?" I asked, my voice breaking. He didn't answer, and that silence haunted me more than anything. The story hit the local news by morning. Teen finds human finger in Wendy's burger. They didn't use my name, but in Amarillo, everyone figured it out. By Monday, whispers followed me down the hall at school. "That's him, the kid who ate the finger." Some kids laughed, others just stared. Tyler and Mitch swore they had my back, but even they couldn't stop the looks. I couldn't eat. Not meat, not fries, not even a sandwich. Every bite felt dangerous. I'd chew slow, waiting for something rubbery, something that didn't belong. Within a month, I'd lost nearly 15 pounds. My mom noticed. "Nate, honey, you've got to eat. You look sick." I just shook my head. I can't. Not after that. But it wasn't just food. Nights were worse. I'd wake up sweating, tasting blood and grease, smelling ketchup that wasn't ketchup. Sometimes I dreamed of the finger rolling across a plate toward me, nails scraping against porcelain. Sometimes I dreamed I bit down again, teeth grinding against bone. The investigators gave me nothing. Weeks later, a health inspector called, voice clipped, rehearsed. It was likely from a workplace accident at a meat plant. Couldn't trace it further. These things happen. "These things happen?" I whispered. My hand shook so bad I nearly dropped the phone. He hung up with a, "Thank you for your cooperation." That was it. No closure, no answers. Just me, left with the memory of that pale flesh between the buns. By fall, my world shrank. I stopped going out with friends, stopped eating at restaurants. My diet turned into crackers, fruit, packaged food I could tear open and check before swallowing. Kids at school didn't let up. One kid shoved a rubber finger into my locker with a Wendy's wrapper around it. Another left a ketchup packet on my desk. I went from being just another senior to that kid. A punchline, a freak. One November night, I came home late from work, exhausted. My mom was asleep, the house dark. I opened the fridge for a soda and froze. Sitting on the middle shelf was a Wendy's burger, wrapped, neat. The bag had grease stains like it had just come from the counter. My stomach dropped. I hadn't bought it, neither had my mom. With trembling hands, I unwrapped it. Inside, nestled between the bun and patty, was another fingertip. Fresh, nail intact. I stumbled back, gagging. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. One text. "Still hungry, Nate?" I stopped sleeping. Every shadow looked like it hid something waiting for me. I changed my number, but the texts kept coming, always from a different one. "Want seconds? Don't waste food. You'll never be done eating." I couldn't tell if it was some cruel joke or something else, something darker. All I knew was that I wasn't safe. Not in my town, not in my house, not in my own skin. One night I caught my reflection in the mirror, gaunt and hollow-eyed. I barely recognized the kid staring back. My stomach grumbled with hunger, but the thought of eating made me shake. And yet, part of me feared hunger less than the possibility that one day, no matter what I ate, I'd find another finger waiting for me. Sometimes, driving past Coulter Street, I see the Wendy's lights glowing in the dark. The smell of grease wafts faintly through my window, and every time my teeth ache like they remember the bite. If there's a moral to this, if I can even call it that, it's this. You never know what you're consuming, not really. Trust, once broken, can rot your insides worse than any bad meat. And some things, once tasted, never leave you. It was January 14th, 2019, and Toledo was buried under the kind of winter that seeps into your bones and makes you wonder why you ever chose to live in Ohio in the first place. The days were gray, the nights darker still, and the snow seemed less like a blanket and more like a slow suffocation. My name is Derek Lawson, and at 24 years old, I was already locked into a routine that felt like it might never end. I worked the graveyard shift at the Amazon fulfillment warehouse off I-75, 10 at night to 6:30 in the morning, 5 days a week. Endless conveyor belts, the constant hum of machinery, and the blinding sting of fluorescent lights overhead. The warehouse never slept. It was a monster with concrete bones and steel veins, and I was just another cog in the endless machine. The hours wore on me in ways I didn't expect. My sleep schedule was shredded, my body always a little sore, and my appetite. Well, that's where things got strange. I wasn't eating right, never felt hungry when the sun was out, and most nights I stumbled into work with nothing in my stomach but coffee. That's how Wendy's became a part of me. There was a Wendy's on Monroe Street, 5 minutes from the warehouse, and it was the only spot that stayed open late enough to match my schedule. Every night, on my half-hour break, I drove out, parked in the quiet lot, and walked into that glowing lobby. It was always too bright in there, too empty, too quiet, like it existed for people who'd given up on the rest of the world. I ordered the same thing every night, a medium chili with crackers. It was cheap, filling, and something about it warmed me up against the January wind. It started as a habit, but over the weeks, it became ritual. I'd sit in the same booth, crack open the saltines, and spoon up the same steaming red-brown stew. I told myself it was comforting, but comfort can turn into a trap, and I didn't realize that until it was too late. By February, I started noticing the taste wasn't right. Some nights it was so salty I had to chase every bite with water. Other times it had this bitter edge like burned garlic or old coffee. Once I felt something hard crack under my molars, sharp enough to make me wince. I spat into a napkin and found a little sliver of something that looked like plastic or bone. I wanted to believe I was imagining it. My body was exhausted. My mind was stretched thin from lack of sleep. Warehouse work makes you doubt your own senses, so I convinced myself it was nothing. I kept eating. But then the stomach pain started. It wasn't just a little indigestion. It was sharp cramps that doubled me over, cold sweats that left me shivering in the bathroom stall while the buzzer screamed for me to get back on the line. Some nights I thought I'd have to call it quits, but I pushed through. Always pushed through, because what else was I going to do? This was the job I had, and the chili had become the one small comfort in my night. The joke was on me. The thing I thought was saving me was poisoning me from the inside out. It was March when things took a darker turn. I walked into Wendy's around 2:15 in the morning like I always did. The place was quiet, just the buzz of the soda machine and the faint smell of fry oil lingering in the air. Behind the counter was a woman I didn't recognize. Older, hair pulled into a bun so tight it looked painful. She barely looked at me when I ordered. Across the room, a man was mopping the floor. I noticed him right away. Thin, pale, jittery. His hands moved too fast, swiping the mop across the tile like he was in a hurry to erase something. His eyes flicked to me when I walked in, and for a second I swear he stopped breathing. I tried to ignore him. I got my chili, sat down in my usual booth, cracked open the lid, and let the steam rise. I took a spoonful and froze. The taste was metallic. Not salty, not bitter, metallic, like licking the edge of a penny. I stared into the cup, and that's when I saw it. Floating near the top was something dark, stringy. At first I told myself it was overcooked beef, but the longer I stared, the less it looked like food. It looked human. My stomach turned. I snapped the lid shut, shoved the cup into the trash, and bolted for the door. On the way out, I glanced back at the man with the mop. He was watching me, not curious, not confused, just watching. His face pale and hollow, his eyes fixed on me like he knew exactly what I had seen. I drove back to the warehouse with my stomach in knots. I couldn't shake the image of that stringy piece of meat, the metallic taste coating my tongue, and the way that man's eyes burned into me. The next day, I told a coworker about it. Marcus was a guy I trusted, someone who also hit that Wendy's sometimes during the night shift. He laughed at first, said I was just paranoid, but then his face changed and he lowered his voice. "Man, you ever hear about Ricky?" I asked who Ricky was, and Marcus told me a story that made my blood run cold. Ricky Evans used to work at that Wendy's. Got fired about a year ago after some kind of blow-up in the kitchen. Word was he'd threatened the manager with a ladle after they caught him tampering with the chili, dropping stuff in it, messing with it when no one was looking. Nobody proved anything, but enough customers complained about weird chili that management quietly let him go. The thing was, Ricky never really left. People said they still saw him around, slipping into the back after hours, mumbling to himself in the lobby. Some said he kept his keys, that he'd sneak into the kitchen when the night crew was thin. And just like that, the face of the man with the mop came back to me. Pale, hollow-eyed, jittery. Could that have been Ricky? A week later, I got my answer. It was raining hard when I clocked out, the kind of rain that blinds you on the highway. I drove past Wendy's on my way home and noticed something strange. The lobby lights were still on, even though it was well past closing. Through the glass, I saw him, tall, thin, greasy hair hanging in his face. He was hunched over one of the chili pots. His hands moved in quick, jerky motions like he was dropping something inside. I slowed down, staring through the rain-streaked windshield. He turned. For just a second, the fluorescent light caught his face. His eyes met mine, and he smiled. I hit the gas and didn't look back. The next day, I called Wendy's anonymously and told them what I saw. The manager sounded tired, like it wasn't the first time they'd gotten a call like that. He said they'd look into it, But I knew nothing would change. I never went back. To this day, the smell of chili makes me sick. The months that followed changed me. I stopped eating at restaurants altogether. I started carrying granola bars and bottled water everywhere I went. My friends teased me, but they didn't know what it felt like to taste something in your mouth that wasn't meant to be eaten. Sometimes late at night, I think about Ricky. I wonder if he's still out there slipping into kitchens, stirring pots of chili with hands that don't belong anywhere near food. The moral? Be careful what you trust. Even the most ordinary rituals can hide dangers. Sometimes, the thing that comforts you most is the thing that poisons you. And sometimes, evil doesn't hide in the shadows. Sometimes, it wears a uniform, holds a mop, and smiles at you through the glass of a fast food window. You don't live in Hollow Creek unless you have nowhere else to go. The whole town feels like it's collapsing in slow motion. Factories shut down, storefronts boarded up, and people walking around like ghosts. I was born here, and most days, I wonder if I'll die here too. My name's Jenna Ruiz. I'm 29, a single mom, and I work 2 shifts at the Dollar General just to keep the heat running in our apartment. My son Mateo is 6. Sweet kid. Too quiet though, like he's already carrying more than a child should. That night, February cold cutting through my coat like needles. I just finished my 2nd shift. I was dead on my feet but hadn't eaten all day. Payday wasn't until Friday, and I had maybe $4 to my name. I figured I'd swing by the Wendy's near the highway, grab a value burger and sit for 5 minutes before picking up Mateo from my aunt's place. That Wendy's had seen better days. The neon sign buzzed like it had asthma, and the inside smelled like grease and something sour hiding behind the soda machine. The booths had cracked pleather, and the floor tiles were yellowed with age. Still, it was warm, and for a few minutes it was somewhere to sit that wasn't my car or the flickering back room of the store. I ordered a junior cheeseburger and fries and slid into a booth by the window, shoulders still tight from the day. That's when I saw her. She was sitting alone 2 booths down. Young, early 20s maybe, with pale skin and hollowed cheeks like she hadn't slept in days. A Frosty sat in front of her untouched. Her hands trembled, clutching the cup like it was the last thing tethering her to this world. I remember thinking, she looks like she's been crying for days. Not the loud kind of crying, but the kind that leaves you hollow inside. I tried not to stare. You learn not to in Hollow Creek. People carry all sorts of stories they don't want to tell. But the girl kept catching my eye. Every few seconds, she'd whisper something to herself, barely audible, just quick bursts of words like, "Prayer's gone wrong." I caught one sentence clear as day. I didn't mean to. I didn't know what else to do. The fries in front of me were getting cold. My stomach growled, but I'd lost my appetite. I pulled out my phone and texted Alicia, who was working the overnight shift at the Speedway gas station next door. "There's some girl at Wendy's acting real messed up. Should I call someone?" She replied almost instantly, "Stay away from her. Cops were just here asking about her." My heart kicked a little harder. I looked back at the girl. She hadn't moved, still shaking, still whispering, still holding that Frosty like it might disappear if she blinked. I was about to get up and leave when the chime above the door jingled and 2 cops walked in. Not local Hollow Creek cops either. These guys were from the county. They looked tired and cold, like they'd been out in it for hours. Behind them came a woman in a thick gray coat, holding a folder and wearing that unreadable expression you see on people who deal with hard cases too often. They headed straight for the girl. "Ma'am," one of the officers said softly, "we need to talk about your baby." That sentence cracked the whole night open. The girl, Evelyn, I'd later learn, crumbled. She folded in on herself, shaking her head, sobbing so loud it echoed through the restaurant. Everyone turned to look, but nobody moved. Me? I just sat there frozen, because there's a kind of terror you feel when you realize you're sitting in the same room as someone whose life just came apart, and you didn't even ask if they were okay. After they let her out, gently, no cuffs, just her hunched between the officers like a leaf in a storm. I sat there for a while. I don't even know why. My food had gone cold. The burger felt like rubber in my mouth, and I kept replaying her voice in my head. I didn't mean to. I looked around. The place had gone quiet again, as if nothing had happened. The fryers hummed in the background. A teenager at the counter wiped down trays without even glancing up. The world just kept turning. I threw my food away, my stomach twisting. As I walked outside, snow had started falling. Just a dusting, but enough to remind me how bitter the night had become. I picked up Mateo from my aunt's, who looked more exhausted than I was, and took him home. He was half asleep in the back seat, his little backpack sliding off his shoulder. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Evelyn's face. Not her crying, but that blank stare before, when she was whispering, shaking, holding that frosty like it was the only warmth she had. The news came the next day. A baby, found dead in a dumpster, behind the Hollow Creek Motel. Evelyn Harper, 22. Arrested on charges of neglect and involuntary manslaughter. She'd given birth alone, wrapped the baby in napkins, panicked, left him. People were quick to judge her. Facebook was full of the usual venom. Monster, they said. Should rot in jail. I couldn't bring myself to type anything, because I kept thinking, what if I'd just said something? What if I'd asked if she was okay, but I didn't? I sat there, ate my fries, watched her fall apart in real time and did nothing. And now I couldn't get the smell of that Wendy's out of my head. A week later, the FBI came to my door. That knocked me off balance. They showed me a photo. Evelyn, same pale face, same haunted eyes. Did she speak to you? One of the agents asked. Say anything specific? I wanted to say no. I did say no. I lied. But the truth? I'd heard her whisper. I just hadn't listened. After they left, I locked the door and sat on the floor next to Mateo's room. I listened to his soft breathing through the wall and cried for the first time in days. Not sobbing like Evelyn, but the quiet kind, where the tears slide down your cheeks hot and useless. I kept going to work. I had to. But I stopped going to that Wendy's. Couldn't stand the sight of it. Every time I passed, I'd see that booth, the one where Evelyn sat. I imagined her ghost was still there, cup in hand, whispering things no one wanted to hear. Alicia told me I was overthinking it. She made her choices, she said. You did nothing wrong. But I couldn't shake the guilt, because I remembered how tired Evelyn looked, how cold her hands seemed, how she'd sat there for God knows how long without eating, and how I, another tired woman mother to mother, sat a few feet away and chose silence. 3 weeks later, my car finally gave out. Transmission gone. I didn't have the money to fix it, so I started walking to work. 40 minutes in the cold. Sometimes longer if the wind fought me. Each step felt heavier after that night. I started checking on Mateo constantly. Got up 3-4 times a night just to see if he was breathing. I'd tuck him in tighter, kiss his forehead, whisper promises I wasn't sure I could keep. I couldn't stop thinking about Evelyn's baby, wrapped in Wendy's napkins, left in the dark, alone. Some nights I'd stand at the living room window and stare out at the street, half expecting to see Evelyn walking past, or standing under the flickering streetlight, her arms empty. That's the thing nobody tells you. The scariest part isn't the crime itself. It's how ordinary everything feels around it. A booth, a frosty, a whisper, and how close you were to it without realizing. I never finished my food that night. I don't think I ever will again, because now every time I sit to eat, I wonder, what if I had just asked? What if someone had? I was dead tired the night it started. The kind of tired where your body moves on autopilot but your mind's still back at the office, stuck between patient charts and medical dictations. My name's Althea Santos. I'm 23, and I work nights. transcribing medical records for a US-based hospital. It's soul-draining work, but the graveyard shift pays extra. That differential? It covers my siblings' tuition back in Bulacan. I can't afford to quit, can't afford to slow down. Wendy's near the MRT is my usual stop before catching the 1:30 a.m. Jeep. It's one of the few places open late where the aircon is always too cold and the lights are harsh enough to keep you awake. On that night, rain hammering outside, my shoes soaked from crossing EDSA, I just wanted a burger and 10 minutes to sit in peace. Then I saw him. He was sitting in the far corner booth, the one with the busted blinds. Same faded blue basketball jersey, the number peeling off, gaunt face. That same fake newspaper he always pretended to read. I'd seen him there maybe 3 times before, never thought much of it. But this time his eyes locked on mine like he was waiting. Ang ganda mo talaga, he muttered, louder than he should have, smiling like we were old friends. What time do you get off work? Maybe I can walk you home? My stomach flipped. I forced a polite smile, said, "Late pa po ako," and walked straight to the counter. I kept my eyes on the ketchup dispensers, pretending not to notice him watching me. But when I passed his booth again, I saw it. He was staring right at my ID lanyard, lips moving as if he were sounding out the hospital name. That night, I took my burger to go, ate it standing under the dripping eaves of the Wendy's awning, glancing over my shoulder every few seconds. Rain soaked through my tote bag, but I didn't care. I just wanted to disappear into the dark and hope he'd forget I existed. I tried to shake it off. Creeps exist. Every woman I know in Manila has a story. Still, something about him stuck with me. How he didn't seem drunk or high. He seemed focused, intent. For the next few days, I avoided that Wendy's. Ate crackers at my desk. Bought instant noodles from 7-Eleven. But Thursday night I cracked. I was starving and lightheaded, and payday was still 2 days off. So I went back, telling myself I was just being paranoid. It was past midnight and the place was half empty. A couple of call center agents laughed loudly over a shared Frosty. A jeepney driver napped in the corner booth. Normal night, until it wasn't. I stepped inside and saw him. Again. Same booth, same jersey, no food, just a large Coke and a folder this time. He didn't say anything, didn't even look at me right away. But I felt it. That itch on the back of your neck, when someone's memorizing you. I kept my head down and ordered fries. My hand shook as I tapped my card. He stood up, walked to the condiment station, just behind me. "You look tired," he whispered, almost kindly. "You live far?" I grabbed my bag and bolted out the door, fries forgotten. Outside, I blended into the crowd under the MRT stairs, praying he wouldn't follow. I waited until a full trainload of passengers emptied out and walked with them, pretending I was part of a group. At work, I couldn't focus. My fingers kept typing the wrong codes. My supervisor, Ms. Velasco, told me to drink coffee or go home if I was just going to stare at the screen. But I couldn't tell her what was wrong. What would I say? A man watched me eat fries and now I can't sleep. That night, when I passed Wendy's on my way home, he was still there, still in that same booth, still watching. I started changing my routine, different entrance into the MRT, different Jeep routes. I even walked an extra block to avoid passing Wendy's. But no matter what I did, he adjusted. He kept showing up. One morning, I saw him by the hospital gates, just outside security. He didn't come in, just stood by a vendor, pretending to buy Tahoe. I thought maybe I was imagining it. But then I saw the folder in his hand. The same. One from Wendy's. He waved, like we were friends. I panicked. I ducked into the building and asked the guard to walk me to the elevator. "May nanghaharas po sa labas," I said. He nodded like he'd heard it before. Then Saturday came. I took a grab home after a double shift, eyes half closed in the back seat. The rain had let up, but the city still shimmered, streets slick and shining under the yellow streetlights. I thought I was safe. But when we turned onto the service road behind Wendy's, he was there, standing right at the corner. When my taxi slowed at the red light, he stepped off the curb and slammed both palms on the hood. I screamed. The driver cursed and hit the gas, tires screeching as we bolted down the road. We filed a report at the barangay hall the next day. I was still shaking when the tenant opened his bag. Inside, a long kitchen knife and pages, literal pages of my schedule. My shifts, the days I worked late, the time I usually showed up at Wendy's. My name was on every line. They took him in, said he'd be evaluated. But we all knew how these things went. There was no restraining order, just a warning. He was out before the weekend ended. After that, I couldn't go back to normal. Not really. I stopped taking public transport. Grab rides cost me half my paycheck, but I couldn't shake the fear. Every time I stepped into a Jeep, I imagined him slipping in behind me. I started flinching at anyone who wore a jersey. At work, I was quieter, jumpier. I asked Ms. Velasco if I could switch to a day shift, but she just frowned and said, "Night differential helps your family, diba?" I didn't push it. I couldn't afford to lose hours, but the insomnia got worse. I kept seeing him in my dreams, sitting in that corner booth, smiling as he wrote my name over and over. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding like I'd just run from something. One night, out of sheer exhaustion, I went back to Wendy's. Not to eat, just to see. The blinds on his usual booth had been fixed. New paint on the walls. The manager, maybe recognizing me, gave a small nod and said they'd banned him. That guy? Yeah, we told him not to come back. But you know, the street's public. I nodded, thanked him, and left without ordering. Alicia, one of the call center girls I'd sometimes see there, later told me he still came by. Just didn't go inside anymore. He just waits near the sidewalk, she said, shrugging. Creepy, no? You should carry pepper spray, as if spray could stop what he'd already done to my sense of safety. I used to think Wendy's was a refuge, a cold, noisy, too bright place where you could just exist between shifts, where no one cared who you were, as long as you paid for your food and didn't hog the table too long. For working girls like me, it was the closest thing to neutral ground in this city. But now I know better. Now I see how routines, my routines, can be weaponized. How something as simple as a burger stop becomes a hunting ground. He didn't chase me with the knife. He didn't grab me on the street. No, he sat and waited and learned until I was too tired, too broke, and too scared to fight back. My younger sister asked why I never take them to Wendy's anymore. I didn't know what to say. How do you tell a 15-year-old that being a woman means planning your whole life around who might be watching? I still work nights, still ride with Grab when I can. And every so often I pass by that same Wendy's. I don't go in, just glance at the corner booth. It's empty now. But sometimes I imagine him there, smiling, waiting, and I wonder how many other girls he watched, how many routines he memorized, and if they ever saw him coming before it was too late. Long before I ever saw the Goggle Man, life already felt like a balancing act I was always losing. I was 17, a senior at a science high school in Quezon City, and every day was a grind. My mom worked double shifts at a private hospital, nurse by day, superhero by necessity. That left me in charge of my little brother Martin. We lived in a cramped second-floor apartment in Project 4, where the walls were thin and the heat had no mercy. Our only luxury was fast Wi-Fi, a gift from my Tito Benji who lived downstairs and paid half the bill. It was the start of April, technically still school season, but close enough to summer for students to start slacking off. I didn't have that privilege. I was barely holding on to my grades while juggling chores, babysitting, and applying for scholarships. So when my biology teacher dropped a group project due in 2 days, I wanted to scream. That's how I ended up at Wendy's on a humid Tuesday night, squished into a booth with 3 classmates, Anna, Paolo, and Jai. We were reviewing slides and sharing 1 large fries and a bottomless iced tea we kept refilling like we owned the machine. Wendy's was packed with other students and call center agents killing time between shifts. The air smelled like fried chicken and stress. I first noticed him when I went to refill our iced tea. He was outside, standing by the bike racks, motionless, dressed head to toe in black, wearing dark-tinted swimming goggles. At first I thought he was just a cyclist on break, but then I realized he wasn't holding a drink, not even a phone. He was just watching us, watching me. I froze at the drink machine. The fluorescent lights inside reflected off his goggles, but I felt him staring right through the glass. When I sat back down, I leaned in close to Anna. "May nakita ba kayong lalaking nakagoggles sa labas?" I whispered. She didn't even look up. "What?" "No. Focus, Mika. We still have to review cell respiration." I tried, but I couldn't stop glancing back at the window. We wrapped up around 11 p.m. Anna's brother had just texted that their driver was waiting, and Paolo lived walking distance. That left Jai and me heading toward the jeepney stand on Aurora Boulevard. I looked back at Wendy's before we left. The goggle man hadn't moved. "He's still there," I muttered. "Who?" Jai asked, distracted by a TikTok video. "That guy in goggles. He's just standing there." Jai shrugged. "Maybe he's waiting for someone." We boarded a rusty, overpacked jeepney. I thought I'd feel safer once we were on the road, but as we turned onto the main road, I spotted him again. He was biking behind us, slowly matching our speed. My heart sank. Jai got off 3 stops before me, waving goodnight with his AirPods still in. I tried to pretend I didn't feel the panic crawling up my spine. I gripped my tote bag tighter and kept my head down. The jeepney finally turned onto my street, narrow, dim, lined with tired houses and flickering lampposts. And there he was, the goggle man, keeping pace. I could hear the squeak of his pedals behind the roar of the engine. Got off right outside our gate. The moment my feet hit the ground, I turned and saw him swerve into our driveway. I wanted to scream, but my throat locked up. "Mika!" It was Tito Benji. He'd been having a smoke by the gate. "Sino yan?" The man froze for a second. Then just like that, he pedaled away, fast, like he'd just remembered something urgent. We both watched him disappear down the street. Inside, I was shaking. Tito locked the gate, muttering curses under his breath. A few minutes later, the barangay tanods patrolling nearby found a bike dumped by the corner store. It was his. A beat-up BMX with duct tape wrapped around the frame and an energy drink bottle tied to it. Inside the basket, a small black notebook. It listed times, school dismissal schedules, all handwritten. The barangay turned the notebook over to the police, but no one came to question me. I guess they figured since nothing happened, no one got hurt. It wasn't a priority. Tito Benji argued with the tanods for days, but the case didn't go anywhere. The bike stayed locked in the barangay hall for a while. I went with Tito once to look at it again. It was smaller than I remembered. The kind of bike you'd outgrow in high school. The notebook, though, that haunted me. I only saw a few pages, but it was enough. 245, St. Maria HS. 410, Roosevelt Academy. 5:30, Science High. That was my school, my schedule. The list went on, day after day, down to the minute. It was like the goggle man had been watching us for weeks. After that, I couldn't walk home anymore. The sound of a squeaky bike chain made my stomach twist. I started paying P40 each way for a tricycle, which meant skipping lunch some days. My allowance just didn't stretch far enough. At school, things got worse. I was constantly on edge. Every hallway glance felt loaded. I stopped joining group studies or staying after class. My biology grade slipped. Miss Aquino asked me to stay after school to talk, but I made up an excuse. I didn't want to explain. I didn't want to sound crazy. Even my friends stopped taking it seriously. "Baka tambay lang yun," Paolo joked. "Next time, invite Mo McFries." I didn't laugh. None of this was funny to me. The worst part, no one else saw him that night. Just me. My friends dismissed it. My mom was too exhausted to process it. Only Tito Benji believed me. But he worked nights too. I was still alone most evenings. I started to wonder Was I overreacting? Was he even real? Then I'd remember the goggles, the perfect timing, the notebook, and I'd feel it again, that gut-deep certainty. I wasn't imagining any of it. Nights at Wendy's used to feel like escape. It was the only place nearby with aircon and Wi-Fi where I could cram or pretend to be normal. Now it just felt haunted. I avoided it for weeks. Then, one Friday near the end of the school year, I gave in. I had no choice. My physics group insisted on meeting there, and I couldn't afford another missed project. I got there early, 6:30 p.m. The place was packed as usual. I picked a seat by the corner, away from the windows. The staff barely glanced at me, familiar faces, but distant. Group trickled in slowly. We worked, laughed a little, but I kept checking the glass doors. Every time someone entered, my body tensed. Around 8:45, I excused myself to the restroom. On my way back, I passed a table with a family, 2 kids, a young mom, and a man in a dark hoodie. His back was turned, but I swear I saw goggles pushed up on his head. I froze, tray in hand. When I blinked, the goggles were gone. Just a man eating with his family. I felt stupid. My brain was tricking me. Still, I left early. Told my group I had a headache. I couldn't stop seeing those goggles in the corners of my eyes. Even shadows felt like warnings now. I'd lie awake at night replaying it. What if I hadn't looked back? What if I'd entered the house just seconds slower? No one understood why I was so shaken. Not really. But I did. Because no one warns you that the scariest part of being a girl in the city isn't loud threats. It's the quiet watchers, the ones who don't speak, who follow, who wait, the ones who smile at security guards and blend into the crowd. Predators don't come with warnings, and they don't vanish just because you stop looking. It's been 6 months. The bike's gone. The notebook's still under investigation. Whatever that means, my grades recovered, barely. I got a scholarship to college. My mom cried when we got the acceptance letter. Sometimes I walk home again. Not every night. Not with earphones in. I don't stay late, and I always glance back. Always. I never saw the goggle man again. But that doesn't mean he isn't out there. Someone else saw a man in goggles outside a 7-Eleven a few barangays away. Could have been him, or just another weirdo. Hard to tell these days. That's what stays with me the most. How easy it is for people like him to disappear, to be written off as strange but harmless. How quickly fear is turned into a joke. But I know what I saw, and I trust my gut now more than ever. I learned that lesson the hard way. Not every danger roars. Some just wait, watch, follow. And when you're a girl walking home after dark, even from a Wendy's, you learn to see them, not just with your eyes, but with something deeper, something that refuses to unlearn the fear. Because in this city, danger doesn't knock, it pedals slowly behind you wearing goggles and a smile. My name is Dante Mendoza, but everyone calls me Dan. At 21, I juggled 2 jobs to support my younger siblings after our parents died in a jeepney accident. From 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., I work as a janitor at the local public high school. Then from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m., I serve as a crew member at Wendy's in Tondo, Manila. The commute between jobs is grueling, and I catch sleep in 4-hour shifts on the UV Express ride home. The Wendy's where I work is a 24-hour joint nestled in a struggling commercial district. It's adjacent to a pawn shop and a 24/7 laundromat. The fluorescent lights flicker incessantly. The drink machine leaks syrup, and the bathroom door has been out of order for as long as I can remember. The security camera's LED blinks, but it's been dead for months. Despite the conditions, this job provides the only free meal I get daily. It's also my lifeline to keep my siblings in school, as their enrollment requires proof of my employment. The job market treats service workers like disposable gloves, and I can't afford to be unemployed. It started with a customer we dubbed Sir Gerald. He was a businessman who always ordered 4 Frosties for his meetings at 1 a.m. He'd leave, fake P1000 bills as tips, each bearing his phone number. His comments about how my uniform fits so well made my skin crawl. One night, I found a selfie of myself taped inside the napkin dispenser. Later, I noticed my work schedule circled on the staff bulletin board. The final straw was discovering a used Frosty cup left precisely at my bus stop. It was clear that Gerald was stalking me. I reported the incidents to my manager, but he dismissed my concerns, saying Gerald was a valued customer. The police were of little help, suggesting I was overreacting. I felt isolated and vulnerable, with no one taking my fears seriously. Closing alone one night, I saw Gerald's black Fortuner idling by the dumpster. The driver's window rolled down just enough to reveal a phone camera pointed at me. Panic surged through me. As I ran, my plastic shoe broke, a P150 expense I couldn't spare. My phone battery died, leaving me unable to call for help. The last jeepney had already departed. Desperate, I hid for hours in the laundromat's broken dryer until sunrise. The experience left me shaken, but I had no choice but to return to work the next day. Quitting wasn't an option. My family's survival depended on my income. During inventory one night, a shabu addict crashed through the drive-thru window with a traffic cone. He began frying his shirt in the vat, screaming about Wendy herself possessing him. The police arrived and found 5 stolen wallets in his socks, a knife taped under dining booth number 3, and photos of all female staff members in his bag. The manager deducted P2,000 from our salaries to cover the damages. My health deteriorated. I developed ulcers from the stress and constant exposure to burger smells. My youngest sister dropped out of school to help at a sari-sari store. Gerald continued to visit, now bringing colleagues who leered at me. Can't quit because Wendy's provides the only free meal I get daily. My siblings' school requires proof of my employment, and the job market treats service workers like disposable gloves. The real horror isn't the danger. It's that the Frosty machine will still need cleaning tomorrow. Gerald will still leer, and Manila will still demand my silence. I endure the harassment and fear because I have no choice. In this city, strange behavior is often dismissed as wala lang, and teenage girls and young men like me learn the hard way that gut instincts exist for a reason. Predators hide in plain sight, even in crowded fast food joints. My shift at the department store usually ends at 9 p.m., and by the time I clock out, the last thing I want to do is go home. My mom works the night shift as a janitor at the local hospital, which means I'm left alone most evenings. The Wendy's, at the half-abandoned mall in Novaliches, is my refuge, a place where I can escape for a while. It's not much, but it's quiet, and it's the only place left that's open after 9 p.m. I don't mind the broken air conditioner or the dim lights. The constant hum of the fluorescent bulbs and the stale smell of fries have become as comforting as any familiar space. The play area in the corner, permanently locked after some incident I'm not supposed to talk about, is a sad reminder of how things used to be better here. But the free Wi-Fi is reliable, and that's all I really need. My mom's late again, as usual, and I've got homework to finish before she picks me up. There's a man who's been here every night this week sitting at the same booth by the window. I call him Lolo Ramon. He's old, always orders just water, but somehow ends up sitting here for hours staring at his manila bulletin like he's reading it. He doesn't really seem to care about the paper. He's more interested in watching me from behind it. His eyes linger on my school skirt in a way that makes my skin crawl. I'm used to weirdos by now. This job isn't the best, and the mall is dying. But there's something about him that unsettles me. I've texted my older brother about it every night, and he always says the same thing. Magtago ka sa CR on my way. I don't know why, but I never feel like I can fully relax until he's here, making sure I'm okay. Tonight, just like the last 5 nights, Lolo Ramon is sitting there pretending to read. I text my brother again, "Andito na naman yung Lolo, 5th night na, creepy." His response comes quickly. Magtago ka sa CR. On my way. I don't know why I'm still sitting here. I should have left long ago, but I guess it's just easier to stay, even with him watching me like that. By the time I've finished my homework and sipped my soda, the rain starts coming down hard outside. The monsoon season is in full swing and the parking lot is flooded with puddles. The wind howls against the cracked windows, rattling the loose neon signs hanging above the counter. The place feels even more deserted than usual. Around 10:30 p.m., I hear the sound of tires crunching on the wet pavement outside. It's a silver Toyota Vios parked in the same spot every night. I can't help but notice the dent on the bumper, the same one my mom's car has. I freeze, my heart skipping a beat. That's her car. It looks just like her car. For a second, I'm relieved, thinking she's here early to pick me up. But as the driver's window rolls down, I see the face of the man I've been trying to avoid for days. It's Lolo Ramon. I try to calm my breathing, but the hair on the back of my neck stands up. My hands shake as I quickly glance around the store. The automatic door locks click shut behind me, the sound sharp and final. I feel a shiver crawl up my spine. The store is locked and the manager's nowhere to be found. Lolo Ramon leans out of the window, grinning at me. His smile is strange, almost too wide. "Bakit hindi ka pa umuwi, anak?" he asks in a voice too soft, too knowing. The sight of his greasy hair and bloodshot eyes makes my stomach turn. I try to smile politely, but I know it's forced. I can't just leave. I'm stuck here until my mom gets here. I quickly text my brother again. Mom's car. Silver Toyota. But it's Lolo Ramon. His response comes almost immediately. "Get to the back, wait for me." I nod, trying to appear calm as I back away from the door. I'm about to turn when something heavy drops from Ramon's hand. A metallic sound that echoes in the silence of the parking lot. A knife? Or maybe just his keys? Suddenly, my mom's real tricycle sputters into the lot. My heart leaps, and I'm flooded with relief. But Lolo Ramon is still staring at me, unmoving. My mom's tricycle pulls into the lot just as Lolo Ramon stands up, dropping something metallic from his hand. I can barely see it, but it looks like a knife. Mom spots me through the window and waves. I turn quickly, looking back to see if Ramon is moving. He's not. His smile has vanished, replaced by a look of anger. It's then that I realize how close he is, how much of a danger he might be. "Ano yung hawak mo? Bakit may kutsilyo sa lupa?" Mom screams as she pulls into a parking spot next to the Toyota Vios. Ramon doesn't flinch, but his eyes flicker, briefly, to the knife he dropped. Then, without saying anything, he disappears into the shadows of the parking lot. Mom rushes out of the tricycle, looking terrified. "Anong nangyari?" she asks, coming up to me with wide eyes. I don't know what to say, but I show her the spot where Ramon stood just moments ago. We both stand there in the rain for a long time. The parking lot is empty now, the only sound the pounding of the rain. But the silence is worse than any noise. "Let's go," my mom says. "We're leaving." As we walk back to the tricycle, I can't shake the feeling that Lolo Ramon is still watching us from somewhere in the shadows. My mom doesn't seem to notice, but I can't stop glancing around, looking for him. The next day at school, I can barely keep my eyes open. I didn't sleep much, and my mind keeps replaying the scene in the parking lot. The look on Ramon's face when he saw my mom, the way he just dropped the knife and disappeared. I can't make sense of it. I fall asleep during my math quiz and fail it. It's a blow I can't afford right now. Not with everything going wrong at home. My mom can't even work the night shift anymore. The hospital's been cutting back on hours and she's been forced to quit. Now we can't even pay rent. When I get to Wendy's after school, I try to keep my head down, but the manager pulls me aside. "Mika, you've been distracting customers with your texting," she says, her face tight. "We're cutting your hours." I can't even argue. I know she's right. I've been distracted, but I never thought it would cost me my job. Now, I don't know how I'm going to help my mom pay the bills. Later that night, I go back to Wendy's. It's been a few days since the incident, but everything feels off. Lolo Ramon is banned from the store now, but I still see him in the parking lot sometimes, sitting in his silver Toyota. I try not to look at him. I try to pretend everything is normal, but nothing feels normal anymore. It's a few days after the incident when the real horror settles in. I've been walking home from school with my brother, and I notice that he's carrying a bike chain with him. I look at him, confused. "What's with the chain?" I ask. Just in case, he says. His tone is calm, but there's a look in his eyes that I don't recognize. At Wendy's that night, I overhear the manager talking about Lolo Ramon. Apparently, he's been spotted near the mall again. The manager is worried, but there's nothing they can do. The CCTV cameras in the mall haven't worked since 2018. The security guard? He's just a homeless guy, paid in fries. I feel the weight of it all pressing down on me. I'm just a part-time worker, a teenager trying to survive. My life is worth so little to everyone else. The truth is, I'm scared. Scared that the system won't protect me. Scared that no one is going to take my safety seriously. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forget the man in the corner booth, or the knife he dropped, or the way my life feels so fragile now. But I know one thing for sure, I'm never going to be the same after tonight. I'm never going to feel safe again. It wasn't much, but it was mine. A cramped studio apartment tucked away in a rundown Quezon City neighborhood, the kind of place most people wouldn't even glance at twice. But after years of enduring my alcoholic father's violence, it was all I could afford. My old room at home had been my personal hell, and after finally escaping to live on my own, I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't known in years. The place was small, a single bed, a rickety dresser, and a desk that doubled as a place to eat and work. At fee $4,500 a month, it wasn't great, but it was enough. The old woman landlord barely left her room, and the whole building smelled like mildew and gasoline from the vulcanizing shop downstairs. But I didn't care. I finally had privacy. I had just landed a graveyard shift call center job making $18,000 a month, just enough to scrape by. Every night, I'd drag myself through the 2 a.m. to 11 a.m. shift, and I'd get home exhausted, ready to crash. I didn't have the energy to cook or eat, so I'd order something quick and mostly fast food before collapsing into bed. On my third night in the apartment, I came home to something strange. A Wendy's paper bag was sitting by my doorstep, the unmistakable logo staring up at me. Inside, I found a Baconator meal with extra fries, my exact usual order. I froze. How had someone known? At first, I thought maybe my new workmates had sent it, but they barely knew me, and I'd never mentioned Wendy's to any of them. Maybe it was the landlord trying to be nice, but the old woman barely ever left her room. Maybe it was a mistake, but my unit number was clearly written on the bag in Sharpie. I didn't know who left it or why, but it felt wrong. Still, I wasn't in a position to waste food, so I ate the meal. It was the first time in days I felt something close to comfort. The deliveries didn't stop. Every night for the next week, the same thing happened. I'd come home to find a Wendy's paper bag waiting for me. Baconator meals, fries, soft drinks, always exactly what I ordered the last time. The delivery was always at the same time, between 1:30 and 2:15 a.m. No delivery rider in sight, no notes, no names, just a paper bag with my food. I started to get uneasy. The first time was weird, but now it was becoming a pattern, and the more I thought about it, the more unnerving it felt. Who would know my order so specifically? It wasn't like I was friends with anyone at work, and the landlord definitely wasn't trying to do me any favors. By the fourth delivery, I couldn't bring myself to leave the food untouched. I hadn't had a proper meal in days, and it was getting harder to justify throwing it away. I ate the fries. It wasn't the worst thing that had happened, but it was still strange. The next delivery was different. The bag felt lighter, almost empty. I opened it and found a few fries at the bottom, a crumpled receipt, and something that made my blood run cold. There, printed on thermal paper, was my company ID photo. That wasn't the only thing. There was also a used Wendy's napkin with lipstick stains, and on the receipt, someone had written, "For Carlo, sweet dreams," in handwriting I didn't recognize. Suddenly, the unease turned into panic. Someone knew me. Someone had been in my apartment. The worst part? I hadn't heard or seen a thing. It didn't take long for me to notice the other signs. The next few deliveries only made things worse. I'd walk into my apartment after work, half dead from exhaustion, and find my laundry moved around. My shirts would be folded differently, the socks paired up in a way that wasn't how I left them. I checked my window one night and realized it didn't fully lock anymore. I never paid attention to that before. I also started noticing small things. My toothbrush glass, the one I kept by the sink, had been used. The faint taste of someone else's toothpaste lingered in my mouth one morning when I brushed my teeth. I couldn't explain it, but I knew something was terribly wrong. The deliveries kept coming and I kept eating them, unable to resist the call of free food. But each meal made me feel smaller, more vulnerable. I tried to make sense of it all. Who could it be? Why would someone do this? It felt like I was being watched all the time, even when I was at work. My mind couldn't settle on any reasonable explanation. All I knew was that the creeping dread I felt each night after work was becoming unbearable. I bought new locks for my apartment and installed a security camera, but it didn't help. The camera mysteriously failed after only 2 days. The locks, too, felt like a temporary solution. Whoever was watching me had access to my life in ways that terrified me. The final straw came one night when the deliveries stopped after I ate one. I didn't know if that was worse or not, but the silence was almost worse than the constant presence of the food at my door. I was left alone with my paranoia, with no answers and no idea who to turn to. One night, after another hellish shift at work, I arrived home to find the streets flooded. The monsoon season had hit hard that week and the water was ankle deep on the pavement. My head was spinning from exhaustion, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was different tonight. I noticed a shadow lingering near the Sorry store across from my building. It was almost impossible to make out in the rain, but I could see a figure standing there unmoving. My heart skipped a beat as the sound of a motorcycle revved to life in the distance. The same motorcycle from before, the one without a license plate. I stood frozen in place, watching. As the motorcycle approached, the shadow by the store shifted. Then through the rain I heard something else, a woman's laughter. It echoed down the alley, high-pitched and unsettling, but there was no one there. No woman, no figure. Just the faint, eerie sound of laughter. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't stay in that apartment any longer. I packed up my things, ignoring the nagging thought that I was overreacting. I left without telling anyone, without a word to the landlord, and without even asking for my deposit back. I just needed out. The next day I found a new place, a little more expensive at $6,500 a month, but at least it felt safer. It was farther away though, and now I had to walk 45 extra minutes to work. Still, it was worth it, but every time I heard a motorcycle, my heart would skip a beat. And every time I passed that same alley, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. I tried to move on. I tried to forget about the strange deliveries, the creeping terror that had consumed my every thought. But the truth still haunted me. I couldn't explain it. I called Wendy's once just to ask if there was any record of the deliveries to my address, and they told me there was nothing. No record of any orders, no receipts, no names. It was like those meals had appeared out of thin air. I went to the barangay for help, but they refused to file a report. Without evidence, they said, there was nothing they could do. I didn't have any proof, no clear sign that someone had broken in or was stalking me. It all seemed so vague. The worst part wasn't the stalker. It wasn't the deliveries. It was the chilling realization that my own poverty had made me a target. I was just a guy scraping by in a neighborhood no one cared about. Who else would live in that hellhole? The weight of my circumstances settled on me. My life was disposable, easy to ignore, easy to violate. And as I walked to my new apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been living in a nightmare, one that might never really end. The worst part? I might never know who was behind it all. The first thing you need to understand is that I'm always tired. I don't have the luxury to be anything but. I'm 22, and my life is a cycle of work, sleep, barely, and worry. I've been juggling 2 jobs for almost a year now, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'm a construction helper, lugging steel bars and cement bags for a measly P450 a day. At 5 p.m. I punch in at Wendy's, where I work until 2 a.m. for a heart-wrenching P63 an hour. I've tried to catch a nap on the FX ride between jobs, but it's never enough. When I close my eyes, I just hear the constant hum of the engines, the feeling of sweat sticking to the back of my shirt, and my stomach growling from the fast food leftovers I sometimes steal during breaks. My family needs me. My mom's sick with diabetes and hypertension. I don't have time to deal with things like rest or having a life. I just have to keep going. The trouble started like a usual Friday night at Wendy's in Pasay Rotunda. It's payday, so the place is packed. Drunk customers stumble in, slurring their orders, arguing over who's paying, and demanding extra sauce for their fries. The sound of a karaoke bar blasting pop hits until 3 a.m. doesn't help. It's loud, it's messy, and the air feels like hot grease that sticks to your skin, no matter how much you wipe your face. The broken air conditioner doesn't help either. The fans just push the greasy heat around, making the whole place feel like a sauna. That night, I was stationed at the counter. Manager Joy was on her phone as usual, not caring much about anything beyond what was on her screen. She didn't notice the guy who walked in stumbling like a wounded animal. Sir Anton, as we later called him. Anton wasn't a regular, but his bulk made him unforgettable. He was huge, muscular in a way that looked aggressive rather than athletic. He smelled like cheap cologne and something else, maybe whiskey. He slammed his tray down on the counter like it was a bomb about to explode. Tangina, kulang yung chicken. Nuggets ko, dapat 6-piece, 4 lang to, he screamed. His face was red, eyes bloodshot. I looked at the tray and sure enough, there were 6 nuggets. The guy had eaten 2 of them, and now he was claiming we gave him 4. No receipt, sir? I asked politely, trying to keep things civil. He threw his hands in the air. Nalaglag na, he barked, and without the receipt there was nothing I could do. But there was one thing I knew for sure. He was lying. I glanced over at Manager Joy, who was still on her phone, not even looking up. Basta maalis lang, she muttered, waving her hand dismissively as though this was a minor inconvenience. I couldn't believe she was just letting him get away with it. But I had learned long ago that in Wendy's the priority was always the customer, no matter how unreasonable they were. By 1:30 a.m., most of the drunk crowd had left. The store was quieter, but that didn't mean it was any safer. The last thing I expected was for Anton to come back and cause a scene. But that's exactly what he did. The door was supposed to be locked, but the latch was broken, a problem that had been ignored for months. Anton kicked the door open with such force that it rattled on its hinges, and the glass panes shook like they might shatter. He was screaming now, his words slurring in anger. Mga putang ina nyo, sasabunutan ko kayong lahat. The other workers froze. I heard the clatter of chairs being thrown across the room as Anton started lashing out. My heart raced. I couldn't think straight. I grabbed the closest co-worker, Arlene, and pulled her behind the counter. The freezer door was barely closing properly, but it was the only place to hide. We crouched inside, breathless and shaking, while Anton's fury filled the air outside. The next few minutes felt like hours. The only sounds were Anton's shouts and the sound of things crashing around. I could hear the distinct thud of chairs being thrown and the horrible noise of something heavy being hurled at the walls. My hands were sweating and my head was spinning. I wanted to be anywhere but there. Eventually we heard the sirens. The barangay tanod had arrived, but it took them 25 minutes to show up. In the meantime, Anton had done his damage. When we finally dared to step out of our hiding place, the place looked like a war zone. The frosty machine was covered in urine. The ketchup packets were missing, and there was a bloody handkerchief left on table 5. The police were useless. They took a report, but something didn't sit right. Anton, it turned out, was a cop's cousin. Funny how that worked, huh? The police report was mysteriously lost, and I was left standing there, not knowing what would happen next. The aftermath was worse. The manager, Joy, didn't bother to deal with anything. She quit the next week, leaving us with no real leadership. No one came to clean up the mess. No one replaced the broken latch on the door. And worst of all, the company's only solution was to deduct Pion 500 from each of our paychecks to cover the damages. I thought it couldn't get worse, but it did. I developed panic attacks whenever I worked the night shift. The constant worry, the noise, the feeling of being trapped. It all wore me down. My mom's medications were delayed because of the salary deductions, and I couldn't afford to pay for them anymore. She didn't understand, and honestly, neither did I. The worst part was realizing how little my safety meant to them. The company didn't care that a customer had attacked us. They didn't even care about fixing the security cameras that hadn't worked since 2019. They just slapped a fake CCTV sticker on the window to make it look like they were trying to protect us. You'd think that the real horror of the night was Anton's rampage, but in reality it wasn't. The real horror was something much deeper, the fact that I couldn't escape this life. The fact that no matter how much I wanted to quit, I couldn't. My mom's condition kept me tied to the job, and the minimum wage kept me trapped. I started carrying a screwdriver in my pocket after that night, just in case. It felt ridiculous, but it was the only way I felt even a little bit safe. Next time Anton might come back with friends, maybe next time things would get worse. I realized that this job wasn't just a dead end. It was a system built to grind people like me into the dirt. I was just another cog in the machine, disposable and replaceable. I wasn't even a person to them. I was just a body to fill a shift. And so I kept showing up every night, exhausted, broken, but unable to leave. The terror wasn't the violent customer. It was the realization that no one cared about me and I couldn't do a thing about it. My name is Trina Robles. I'm 14, but most people say I act older than I am. The truth is, I had to grow up fast. My parents never seemed to get along. Most nights, they're yelling at each other about gambling debts, about how much we owe, or why they can't pay for the rent this month. The apartment is small and hot, even worse during the summer. We live in Mandaluyong, where the sounds of cars, honking horns, and construction never seem to stop. It's suffocating, the heat and the noise. Sometimes, when it gets too bad, when the walls feel like they're closing in, I slip out. I don't care that it's late, I don't care about the curfew, I just need to get away from it all. The only place that gives me peace is the 24-hour Wendy's on Edsa. It's not far, just a 15-minute walk from home. I go there to finish my school projects, using their Wi-Fi. We can't afford data, so it's my only option. That night, though, was different. When I got to Wendy's, it was completely dark. The flickering streetlights and the broken neon sign above the door read only Endy's. The W was gone. It was the kind of place that felt stuck in time. The drive-thru speaker, which usually blared out the menu, was only static now. I thought maybe the brownout was affecting the area, but it didn't make sense. Wendy's never closed, not even during brownouts. I was about to turn back and head home when something caught my eye in the parking lot. It was a life-sized Wendy's girl mascot, standing eerily still by the dumpster. It wasn't unusual for the mascot to be out there, but something about it felt wrong. It didn't move, and its smile, it was stitched way too wide. One of its eyes was missing. I stood frozen, staring at the mascot for a second longer than I should have. It felt like I was staring at something unnatural, like it was waiting for me. The air around me grew even heavier. The brownout made the place even quieter than usual. All I could hear was the static from the drive-thru speaker and my own heartbeat, pounding in my ears. And then it happened. The mascot's head snapped toward me. No human could move that fast. It wasn't possible. I felt my stomach twist with fear, and my instincts screamed at me to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I was paralyzed with terror, caught in the gaze of something that shouldn't have been alive. Before I knew it, the mascot began to glide across the parking lot, moving toward me. Its feet didn't make a sound on the wet concrete, and the air smelled like rotten chicken. It was so foul I could barely breathe. I started backing away slowly, my feet finally finding their strength. I was almost out of the parking lot when I passed the homeless man sitting by the corner of the building. His eyes didn't even look at me. He was pretending not to see, but I could see the terror in his face. Then the security guard stepped outside, looking nervous. His hand was shaking as he fumbled with his keys. He looked at the mascot for a second, then muttered something about needing to pee and bolted for the bathroom. The stray dogs by the corner of the street whimpered and ran off. They could sense something was wrong, too. I didn't dare look back. I ran as fast as my legs. could carry me, pushing past the gate and back onto EDSA. My heart was pounding, my breath coming in gasps. The sound of plastic rustling from behind me like a bag being dragged along the ground sent chills down my spine. I didn't stop until I was back home, breathless and terrified. The next morning I barely slept. My eyes kept fluttering open, looking for any sign of that thing. I kept seeing flashes of its grotesque stitched smile and the missing eye. It was a nightmare I couldn't shake off. When I got to Wendy's the next day, I tried to act like everything was fine. I walked up to the counter to grab a snack before heading to school. I knew the staff there and I figured maybe they could explain what happened last night. But when I asked them about the brownout, they all just looked at me like I was crazy. "Walang brownout dito kahapon," said one of the crew members, shrugging. We didn't lose power. I tried to ask about the mascot. "What about the mascot?" I asked. "The one by the dumpster?" The crew all looked at each other, confused. One of them spoke up. "Wala na po yung mascot since 2018. Pati yung costume tapon na matagal na." That made no sense. I'd seen the mascot with my own eyes, right there in the parking lot. But they all insisted it was just a mistake, that I must have imagined it. I started to walk out, feeling like I was losing my mind. When I reached for my school bag, I froze. Something caught my eye. I opened it up, and there, at the bottom of my bag, were 2 red pigtails, strands of synthetic hair. They were the same color as the mascots. I grabbed them in disbelief, my hands shaking. I didn't know what to make of it. Was I imagining things? As the days passed, things only got worse. I tried to go back to normal, but I couldn't stop thinking about what happened. I couldn't focus at school. I kept hearing plastic rustling outside my window at night like something was moving. Every time I looked outside, I saw nothing but the empty street. I started falling asleep in class, my head on the desk, too scared to go out at night. My grades slipped, and I failed 3 subjects. I couldn't concentrate on anything anymore. I was scared to be alone, scared to be in the dark, scared of what was lurking in the shadows. At home, my parents never noticed. They were too caught up in their own problems. I couldn't tell them what happened. They'd just laugh at me and say I was imagining things. After all, I was just a kid. What did I know? The rumors started circulating around the neighborhood. People talked about the barangay captain's nephew, who had gone missing last year near that very Wendy's. But no one had ever found him. The police never investigated it properly. It was as if everyone just pretended it didn't happen. I started hearing stories from night shift workers at Wendy's. They said they'd seen strange things in the play area after midnight. Shadows, moving where there shouldn't be any, and strange noises coming from the old mascot costume stored in the back. They said it had been missing an eye for years, ever since the last manager disappeared. I don't know what's real anymore. All I know is that something's wrong with that place. Something's wrong with the mascot, and something's wrong with the city. I can't escape it. I wish I could forget. But I can't. I'm still living in the same apartment, still stuck with parents who don't care. The only difference is that now I'm scared of the dark, scared of what's waiting for me outside. In Manila, even your nightmares have to take the jeepney home. And no one's going to protect you. Not your parents, not the cops, no one. I'm just another kid trying to survive in a city that doesn't care.